Hey everybody, Shawn here from the Automation Blog and School, and this week on the Automation Podcast, I meet up with John Gardner from CNC Broach Tools to learn all about his initiative, Manufacture Local. John, thank you for coming on the Automation Podcast. Really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to come on the show and talk to us about Manufacture Local. And this is something close to my heart because when I got started in the automation industry back 32 years ago, almost everybody I worked with for since then was in manufacturing. I mean, you'd have an occasional bridge or crane or water department or a power department that had automation in it. But the vast majority of companies out there, almost everything you see and use today is manufactured with some automation. And it goes back before I was born in the 60s. So this has been around for a long time. And there are, like most of my audience, and they know, most of my audience, they're in manufacturing. They're working locally in their communities, making stuff every day, whether it's cans that your soft drink goes in or the soft drink that goes in the can, or all the parts that go into your car, or all the great stuff you have at home. Now, we do know that there are some high volume electronics that are not made locally, right? We understand that. And but almost everything else you can find, whether it's cups or glasses or dinnerware or, all the products you find on the shelf. I mean, there are versions of those that are made local. Of course, if you go to the cheapest of the cheap versions, they're typically made overseas in volume. But if you're looking for the higher quality things, they're usually manufactured local. And in my career, I was always surprised how many people didn't realize just down the street from them, there's a factory making, it could be cement or it could be lime for farms and whatnot. And it could be, it's really the same thing with farming too, because a lot of people don't realize how much farming is done locally. And I think this is good because you know what? If there's a problem with trucks, if there's a problem with trains, if there's a problem with boats, if you have stuff being made locally, you're in good shape. You don't want to be at the mercy of a single boat getting stranded somewhere because of whatever, gets stuck in the Suez Canal or something, right? You don't want to worry about that you're not going to be able to eat or you're not going to be able to get the products you need in your company to do what you do. So I'm very passionate about everybody, everywhere. Everything should be made as much as possible locally to support the local industry. And, it's just everybody I work with, almost everybody I work with is in local manufacturing. They're making products. And so when I saw your Manufacture Local initiative, I really wanted to, I was excited to get you on the show. But before we get into Manufacture Local, I really want to talk about you and how you got into manufacturing and then talk a little bit about your company. So if you don't mind, let me pass it over to you. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into manufacturing?
I grew up in Ohio and Pittsburgh. My extended family is Pittsburgh, and we all know Pittsburgh's manufacturing legacy city with the steel mills and all. And so my dad was in the manufacturing industry, and when I was 10, 11, he decided to start his own business in the manufacturing industry with a tool design he had. And he bought a 1940s grinder. And at 10, 11, 12, I was out in the garage, sometimes all night long, grinding carbide inserts that he would sell. And I learned a lot about hard work, and I liked it. I liked kind of watching him grow the business and advertising it and having his own product that he was proud of. I didn't complete high school, and I left home to kind of travel around America and learn what I wanted to do. And in my early 20s, I realized I wanted to start my own business. I didn't like working for other people. And I was talking to a girlfriend's dad in Oklahoma who worked at Baldor Electric Motors, which is now ABB Robotics, but it was Baldor Electric Motors in Fort Smith, Arkansas. And he was pointing at a CNC machine, and we had very similar experiences in life. I grew up around the manufacturing industry, as did he. So we had a little bit to talk about. He's like, if I had a cutting tool that could do this and that. And I was like, okay. And so I talked to my dad about it, and my dad was an old school tool designer, who are the guys that know more than I'll ever know about machining and manufacturing in my lifetime. They're the ones with the tribal knowledge. And he's like, he drew the design up for it, and I took the design and got a prototype made, borrowed money from a bartender's dad that I knew who was an attorney, and I got a prototype made and sent it to my friend at Baldor Electric Motors, and he tried it out. And I woke up one morning, had an order for every single size they had, and I've blown out of the water. All of a sudden, I had to start a business, and I had no money. So I got extra jobs and, in the manufacturing industry under a time frame. So I got 2 extra jobs to get the capital to get these prototypes made. And I had vendors make them for me, and I sent them to them, to Baldor Electric. And so the company started to blossom. I started getting more and more companies. Now, that was 2005. Now in 2022, 18 years, I've worked with the U.S. Navy, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Siemens, Department of Energy. And my favorite people to work with, though, are the smaller machine shops. And 75% of U.S. manufacturers employ 20 employees or less. And 95 employ, I think, 50 or less. 95% of manufacturing companies. So manufacturing is true small business. And it's interesting. Those are the guys that get stuff done, and they get it done fast. The big corporations are really kind of slow and cause a lot more paperwork. But my company is CNC Broach Tools, and it's a cutting tool to do the broaching feature, to broach squares and splines and shaped forms around, all the spline heads and everything. And we do sell to a lot of electronic companies. I think Tyco's one. Anyway, that's how I got in the manufacturing industry. And my passion for it is when you make something, you're adding value to the economy. And I think that so many people are missing the boat with, I feel we've all been, I hate to use the word brainwash, but, go to college, go to college, go to college. That's great. But, in the manufacturing industry, you can go right out of high school and get a technical skill and build that. And a company will pay you to go to school where you can build on your technical skill and climb your way up and start your own business with that technical skill, if it's in demand. I think a lot of people coming out of college these days are saddled, burdened with enormous debt, and they have a general skill set or an idea of a skill set, but no specific skill set or experience. And I think a lot of people, once they leave college, then have to go intern for low wages to get the experience. And what I love about the manufacturing industry, the only way to really learn the manufacturing industry is to experience it, is to dive in right away and have a mentor on hand teach you how they do it. And that's one of the things that excites me about the industry. I might be going on a tangent here, but I wanted to, that's what I love about the industry, and I feel the longer I do CNC Broach Tools, the more excited I get about being in this industry. So.
Yeah, it's not strange in the fact that a lot of we have a lot of, at the automation school, we have a lot of, electricians and engineers and technicians. A lot of those people don't have college degrees. They went to a trade school, became an electrician or a technician, and then they were throwing the feet into the fire. They had to get that black box working, the PLC that's on the machine working. And so they had to start learning PLCs, started in maintenance technicians. We've actually interviewed several controls engineers, automation engineers that's how they got started. And it's good that we're seeing elected officials, public servants start to talk about this more. The trade school needs to come back. I mean, even my youngest son, who's now in his late 20s, he went to school for game design. And after spending the 5 years in college, taking a little time off, and getting a job at a big developer, he's kind of like, I wish I just would have spent, took a 1-year intensive course just on game design and forget all the other stuff. There's all the other stuff you learn he'll never use. Now, he's big into history, so he loved that part of it. But there's a lot of stuff he had to take over 4 years that he'll never use in his job. So I agree with you there. Yeah.
I think there's it's sad, but I feel there's people who don't have college degrees, there's some of the smartest people I talk to all day long, but I think there's a little shame in our society for taking the technical route. And I think that's wrong. I think we need to build those people up and not make them feel less than. I think we need to recruit kids straight out of high school to join this industry. That's my opinion. I do believe there's a societal disconnect that these people have that don't have college degrees, have so much value and so much that they can add to our society. And it bothers me, probably because I'm one of them, that, you feel a little less than if you don't.
Yeah, I think in manufacturing, that's definitely, you're right on with that. I really do. There's some design engineering jobs that require, a PhD, right? It's very
100%.
serious stuff. But when it comes to manufacturing and keeping the plant going, I think you just need a hard worker who's ready to learn, and they can really move up. And I've seen that over the last 30 plus years in manufacturing here in the US.
Talking about that evolution of, how engineers have degrees and they're designing. Back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, guys like my dad and other people I work with, they started off in the shop first. My dad started off on a lathe at 17 years old. Then once he learned how to make something, then he, went to college at night and school at night to get his engineering degree. I feel like right now we have it a little backwards, where people are taught how to design before they know how to make something. Mechanical engineering stuff don't spend a lot of time in the shop, and a frequent conversation I have is with, guys in the machine shops are like, the engineer won't let us change it. And the machinist and I both know it's going to raise the cost to do it enormously, because they just won't listen or won't hear some feedback from a machinist who knows the best way to make it. And I feel corporations have diminished the voices of the guys actually making it. That could be part of the reason why it's so expensive to manufacture in America, because there's this, elite educated class that won't hear from the guys that are actually doing it, that could make a lot of improvements to lower the cost to manufacture something. I think I've heard 90% of cost is in design. Well, if you don't design to be manufacturable, costs go up. So,
well, that's why I think in automation, so many people who've started out wiring the machines are the people actually designing the automation for them. They just have a brass tacks, practical, hands-on knowledge of what works and what doesn't. And many of them won't touch something that's been developed by somebody who doesn't have that same, understanding of the process. As a matter of fact, that's one of the biggest things you'll see in manufacturing on the automation side is success. If you're going to buy a new machine from somebody, you want a proven track record, because nobody wants to be the first to try something new. But, I think this might be a good time to segue into, so we've talked about your background. We talked about your business. Before we get too far, what is the website for your business in case anybody's interested in checking it out?
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Shawn. It's www.cncbroachtools.com and they're cutting tools to be used to cut keyways, splines, blind keyways, shapes, and automate that process, the broaching process. Historically, the broaching process was, done offline, even up till now, old key seaters and broaching machines. And, more and more, it's one of the last processes, milling, drilling, grooving, reaming, boring, all that's been done on the CNC mills and lathes for a long time, decades. But broaching was still kind of one of those operations that was a little bit of a curveball, I think. And now our product allows people to do it on their CNC lathe and mill with the rest of the operation, so the part comes off complete. And a lot of people still, you'd be stunned, there's specialty broaching houses. So I've had clients that will ship thousands of parts all the way across the country to a specialty broaching house, and then they'll get all the parts back, and 20% will be damaged, 10% will be done wrong, and they live with that. So I kind of see the broaching tool that I've provide industry as I call it the emancipation of broaching, because you're not, a manufacturer should be able to do this operation in-house on the machines they want to do and not send it to another outside entity. You want to control your manufacturing. So www.cncbroachtools.com.
That's awesome. And that's a good point. People do want to be self-sufficient. They don't want to send things out. I mean, that's really how that was. We talked about this recently in the beginnings of the PLC back in 68, 69. One of the reasons, and I don't think they're around anymore, but DEC, Digital Equipment Computer Corp, really didn't get an early lead. It was because they weren't allowing the unit to be programmed by the staff, local staff. And people have to be self-sufficient. Now, I want to take this moment to go ahead and segue into manufacturing local, because this is something you've kind of doing on the side because you're a passion like me. You're very passionate about manufacturing local and having strong communities and whatnot that go around that. So can you tell us a little bit how that got started and where it is today?
Yeah. I grew up believing in the strength of the middle class in America and the hope and opportunity that that provided people all around the world. That's coming in, to Ellis Island, and everybody in the Pittsburgh neighborhoods I kind of grew up around were still immigrants and families of immigrants. They all had their little neighborhood, and most of them were in the manufacturing industry. Most of their dads and granddads had started off in the steel mills of Pittsburgh. And so I saw the opportunity that the manufacturing industry provided the people to have a strong middle class, family oriented. And I believe that has gone away. And I believe America needs a complete overhaul regarding its mentality toward the manufacturing industry. I feel like it's dismissed, it's forgotten. It's kind of like overseas, out of sight, out of mind. And I believe there's a perception right now still that it's a dirty industry and you're dirty and dangerous. And every facility I go to is, air conditioned, temperature, climate controlled. You're working on $500,000 machines doing fascinating operations. It's come a long way since the 20s, 1920s. And I feel that, you saw a lot of marketing art regarding the industrial base during World War II that, build it up. Now nobody talks about it, number one. It's kind of looked down on a little bit, in my opinion. And I feel, like you said to your point earlier, a lot of people don't even know where all their parts come from. Well, how many parts are in a washing machine? Where do they all come from? Where does the minerals that are used in there come from? I believe in mine local as well. One of the things I don't think people understand is America has some of the strongest environmental and labor laws in the world. So you want to mine here. It's cleaner. You want to manufacture here. It's safer. So I just feel manufacturing in America has been neglected, and I believe it built this country and gave the opportunity, to enter the middle class. And, that's a powerful thing to have a strong middle class, in my opinion. So that's really the deep starting point for me, is when as I spent, a decade and a half in the industry, I started talking to people and they'd be like, what do you manufacture? What they just had no concept of the industry in of itself. And it's exciting. So,
I agree with you. And so not this audience knows this, but to the general public, we got to dismiss the myth that nothing is made here in America.
So wrong.
Every road you go down, you see big buildings. There are people making stuff, paper products, just everything you can think of is made here. And we're not just talking about utilities and bridges and whatnot. We're talking about actual products. There's a lot of paper mills up here in the Northeast. I visited many of them. They're really cool to go and see. And it's a really big processes with really big rolls of paper. And it's an exciting thing if you ever get a chance to take a tour of a paper mill. But there's also, manufacturing of, you can go into these plants that make screws or nails, and they're just miles and miles of screw and nail machines. You got to put earphones on so you don't lose your hearing. And they're making cans. Cans are big, empty aluminum cylinders. They're not very affordable to ship a very long way. So a lot of that, like a mattress is mostly air. It's not very affordable to ship very far. So very likely in your town or in your city, in the closest city, you have a mattress manufacturer. You have somebody making cans. You have somebody bottling whatever you want to drink because they want to get the water local. Who wants to ship water? Water's so heavy, right? And then you got farmers. Just do Google Maps or Bing Maps. You'll see farms all over the place. Just zoom out, get a little bit out of the city, and you'll see all these beautiful farms. So, I kind of feel I'm a little cynical about this because I've actually seen plants close up and move product manufacturing overseas, and the product didn't get cheaper, but the company's profit went way up. And to me, like a company has three roles. Number one, they have to make money. If they don't make money, they go out of business, right? So whether they're making money for the owner or they're making money for the shareholders, it doesn't matter. You have to be profitable, at least a couple of pennies. You got to turn a profit, right? Otherwise, you're not paying people what you promised to pay them. Number two, you must make something people need, either a product or service. If people don't need it, you can keep making buggy whips. If nobody needs them, nobody's going to buy them, right? That's a disservice. You're making waste. But the third thing is you got to give your employees a good working environment. You got to do something for the people and in turn for the community. And That's why we don't allow child labor. That's why we have a 40-hour work week. That's why we don't force people to work 80, 90 hours. We don't have forced servitude. And I just like to say, if there's any public officials out there, public servants, elected officials, what good does it do our country to have really strong laws here for manufacturing in America? But the second they step one foot outside of America, all those rules get thrown away. They can dump raw sewage into the river. They can, they've detected mercury in Boston Harbor that comes from China. So, I mean, what good is it not to have, if you're going to sell it here, you should have to meet our rules, no matter where it's made. You shouldn't be able to pollute just because you're making it across an imaginary line in the ground. You shouldn't be able to have slave labor. You shouldn't. Look, if you want to sell here, you should have to meet our rules. You have to, make it with clean power. You have to treat your people well. But we don't do that today, and it's something I hope as we go through the next century, this century, the 21st century, we'll come to understand that makes literally no sense.
You're 100% spot on. And I think it goes with this mentality of free trade is great, globalization is great, but it doesn't address fair trade. And that is the problem. And you're not trading fair when you're trading with economic pirates.
Yeah. Now, I want to take a turn here and talk about actual manufacture local specifically. So I believe you've created a website and you've been on many popular shows, and we appreciate you coming on our show because we're automation focused. So,
Shawn, this is great. People who are actually in the industry are my favorite to talk to because we see the same things and we're passionate about the same things. And I learn every time I talk to, I went from our conversation about automation, I knew some stuff, but I always learn more. And it's always, you can never stop learning in this industry. That's what I love about it.
Yeah, and I know, our audience, everybody knows about Baldor. Everybody knows ABB and Siemens. I mean, they're just very large names, well-known names, high-quality products. Emerson, they're all big name companies out there.
All of those have used my Broach tool to create electric motor shafts, which I'm sure, you guys use. And anyway, that's it's been... Again, I love learning from every interaction with every size customer. I've dealt with a guy who bought a Haas mill and put it in his garage and was doing work at night while he worked at a big corporation, starting his own business. I've dealt with the 2-man shop, the 3-man shop, up to the big guys. And it's, I think it shows the beauty and a hot word right now, diversity of the industry, that you can, do that. One note on this, and I don't want to go on, but I think something that, from my perspective, the manufacturing industry used to be big factories, and in Detroit and Pittsburgh and Cleveland and Baltimore and Philadelphia and Chicago, and they were the meccas of industry. And then some manufacturing fled. This is where the big factories were, and but I find a lot, I kind of call it distributed manufacturing right now. I see a lot of these 20-man shops or small shops are all over, and I feel things aren't centralized as they used to be in the industry. Now it's anybody can start a shop in their garage, anywhere, and I think that is, when you have that sort of independence, and an industry can flourish in a different way to truly manufacture local. A guy in his garage could be making parts for the city, that he lives in.
Yeah, it's amazing because there's an economy here. So you have some of the most massive plants ever being made now, right? So you look at the Giga plant in Texas by Tesla, biggest plant in maybe the world, biggest plant in the country. And then you have places like a place I used to visit quite often, a very large chip manufacturer making, IC chips, right? Not potato chips. I love those too. Those usually aren't as big. But this thing's probably, imagine the largest mall you've been to and then multiply by 10. This place is massive in upstate New York. You would never imagine chips being manufactured in upstate New York, right? But these ICs are being manufactured up there by the millions and millions. And, nobody even knows about them unless they're picking up the paper and reading about the latest expansion. Nobody realizes what's being manufactured local.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? Because I mean, back in the 50s, 60s, you'd see all kinds of artwork from, Republic Steel would show this man of steel, like in the steel mill, and they were proud of the industry, and they put marketing out there, like branding now, just like a Nike does now, just to have a good brand. Why don't they do that now?
That,
Why?
that's a great question. If one of my lottery dreams, if I ever win the lottery, would be to start a production house to do a series, a true made in America series, where you go to the plants in every state and you visit them all, and you talk about what they're making there. Like, how
That's a
many
dream
people?
of mine too.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
would
it
love
would be so much fun.
Yep, it would be so, like the Mike Rowe, the Mike
Yeah,
Rowe.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's great.
do
Yeah,
something like that, but in each plant, highlight the people. A lot of them I hear. I was reading this New York Times interview with this lady, and her dad was in Detroit, and she was the first person to go to college, but it was her great granddad, her granddad, her dad, all worked for General Motors. She was the first person 3 generations down to go to college, and then she was back at General Motors. I mean, those sort of stories are part of American history, and they're inspiring. They're inspiring because the thing that I see in these cities where manufacturing kind of left the inner cities is hopelessness. How do you crawl out of there? Back in the 40s, 50s, you saw other people living there that would go to the job downtown Detroit or whatever, and I feel like when you hear these stories, it gives you hope for a way out. And that's why I named my show www.thevoiceofhope.com, because I feel the manufacturing industry gives people hope for a middle-class life. And I go back to the town I grew up in, and I watch my dad lose his job at various manufacturing facilities or close to the town. And then you have to drive farther and farther away to the bigger, to Columbus, and farther out to as the jobs moved farther away and got scarcer, even though they're still here. And I go back to that town now. I was there in July, and there isn't that same sort of hope. Actually, the town I grew up in is now the fentanyl trafficking capital of the country, and so the hope for a middle class life is the American dream, and the manufacturing industry provided a pathway to that. If you hold on one second, can I show you some of the cool art I've collected?
Yeah, please.
Oh, give me 1 second. Sorry about that, Shawn. So a couple of, my point on the marketing, here you can see this man of steel. It's Republic Steel, right? And then you see here, this one here, Uncle Sam puts his shoulder to the wheel of industry. That powerful, positive, hard work, building a life, building a country. This one I really like, baptism of fire, working in the mills. And then this one here, all kinds of people work for Republic Steel. Last one before I go on too long. This one right here, to industry and labor, full speed ahead. Every day counts, production drive committee. I have the original of this poster. It's really big. It was from the 1942. The original was printed, and I have it. It's rolled up in a kind of a safe thing. I bought it online, and it was hanging in a steel mill in, I believe, Tennessee or something during World War II. But that's what I was referencing when I talk about how there used to be a very positive mentality regarding this industry and the workers inside the industry. They were respected. And because they could bring in other people and train them and mentor them with their skill set. And a lot of the stuff that I feel isn't understood outside of our industry is how the mentoring that needs to go on. There's a tribal knowledge, a heritage knowledge, things only as you work on automating something, tricks you can teach somebody. When you're in the shop, there's the mentoring and teaching is so important. But anyway, I'm probably going on a tangent here.
No, I think, and there's always been good people out there promoting this message, right? Always been companies do it, but I think majority of society kind of got swept up a little bit too much into you have to go to college to be successful, right? And I think now we're starting to really wake up and say, trade schools are good too. Do I care that my mechanic, do I care that my plumber has a 4-year degree and knows all kinds of things about Socrates and, no. I want him to be the best dang guy at what he does, or she, the best dang girl at what she does. And they don't need it. They don't need it. And that's what I think. I think people are starting to, as they see that we have less mechanics and less plumbers and less people working, less electricians and, really trades people. I mean, I think they're realizing, hey, and then how many kids go to college and are so unhappy with the experience? They're like, I'm a hands-on person. I'm not a book person. So I do think maybe society in some ways, we've had our crazes, moon rocks, right? And, all these different things. But I think society has come to the realization that, 4 years of college is not for everyone. There are those among us, like myself, who want to do hands-on stuff. I want to program. I want to wire up new circuits. And, I don't want to learn about things on, sociology, psychology, and all this other stuff that really have no interest. And I think that's why we got to support those who are, that we've already elected to be our public servants and those who want to be our public servants and get elected. We have to really encourage them to realize that everybody's unique. Not everybody is fit for, not everybody should go to a 4-year school to get trained. I mean, we need to train people, in what they want to do, whether it be a mechanic, a plumber, or an electrician, or, a PhD or an engineer or a doctor. We got to let people make those decisions and not try to force everybody into this one path. That's my thought on it.
The salaries for, I believe, these non-college educated people, although they can always become college educated, is growing. A perfect example is when in 2018, the Section 232 steel tariffs were put into place. And everybody, like you said, or mentioned earlier, it's expensive to manufacture in USA. Well, the price of steel went down in response to the tariffs. And there's 10 new steel mills being built all across America right now, like U.S. Steel, Nucor, Cleveland Cliffs. They're building multiple steel mills, creating jobs. They have to entice these people to come into the mills. And in 2017, the average steel mill worker made $70,000 a year. As of 2022, the average steel mill worker is making $117,000 a year. And many of those companies offer stock options. They'll pay for you to go. They'll pay for you to go to school. You don't pay a university while you're earning that money. And the beauty about this is when you're earning that kind of money, both parents don't have to be out in the workplace, and allows a parent to be home with the kid.
I think as society, we have to support people's decisions, whether it's to go to school or go to a trade school or start their own business. We just got to be supportive and not every option is going to work the first time. People think they want to be a teacher and they turn out they don't like it, or people think they're going to like to be an electrician and it's not really their thing. And that's life. That's all part of life. Now, I've
started 3 different things that I don't like that. I don't want to do it anymore. I want to do this instead. So I think it's not, but when you invest $250,000 into a college degree, you better do that, or else, So I think starting off with a skill set that you can do while you do other stuff is a good way to jump into life. It was for me,
Yeah. Now I want to make sure, as we're wrapping up here, I want to make sure we talk more about your show. So you gave the website out earlier. Can you give it to us again?
Yeah, it's www.thevoiceofhope.com, and it's very. I want to make America the manufacturing superpower of the world again, and build the middle class, and create, positive insights into, the opportunities that America provides us all.
Yeah, and if you're Canadian, I want Canada to be really strong with local manufacturing. And if you're from Mexico, we have a lot of listeners in Mexico, Brazil, Australia, England. I want you all to have strong local manufacturing, local farms, local everything. I don't want you to be at the whims of a boat sinking or a train getting derailed, or we want you all to be strong. And it's like, I love when I see manufacturers build plants all on each continent. I love that because it means people there have good jobs and good choices. So give us the web. Good.
You don't want to be at the whims of a boat sinking or that's so well said. That is the problem with the idea of globalization is what happens when the supply chains cut or when the people you're sending it to steal all your intellectual property. So anyway, thank you for having me on, Shawn. It was really, it was very fun.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. I really do, and taking time out of your busy schedule and coming on the Automation Podcast.
Well, I look forward to talking to you some more. Thanks, and thank you for having me.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode. And I want to thank John for coming on that show to tell us about his company and also talk about manufacturing local, which is a topic that's near and dear to my heart as well. With that said, if you did enjoy this episode, please consider giving us a like and a sub. And if you want to follow me or support me, you can do so over at automation.locals.com. You'll also find all of my PLC, HMI, and SCADA courses over at theautomationschool.com. With that said, I want to wish you all a very happy, safe, and healthy week. And until next time, my friends, peace.